A tiny island paradise held Europe's most dangerous secret for centuries. Off the coast of Italy lies Ponza, a place of stunning cliffs and turquoise waters, but its beauty hides a dark purpose. This island became the continent's secret prison, a dumping ground for kings, queens, and emperors who had lost their power. By the end of this story, you will understand how a single speck of land shaped the fate of fallen dynasties. What desperate measures did rulers take to silence their own family? How did a pope meet his end in this isolated cage? What does it feel like to trade a palace for a prison cell with a view? What would you miss most if you lost everything in a single day? Its jagged cliffs rise from the sea like a natural fortress, a stunning monument of rock and hidden sea caves glowing an impossible blue. This is Ponza, a tiny jewel in the Tyrrhenian Sea, closer to the mainland than you might think, just a short voyage from the bustling port of Naples. Its beauty is undeniable, yet its location was its true curse. For any empire, this was the perfect solution. It was remote enough to isolate someone completely, cutting them off from the world they once ruled, yet close enough to the Italian coast to remain under the watchful eye of Rome. The very geography that made it a postcard-perfect paradise also made it an inescapable cage. The Romans, masters of practical solutions, were the first to recognize this brutal potential. When a member of the imperial family became too troublesome, too politically dangerous, or simply an embarrassment, they were not always killed. Such a direct method could create martyrs. Instead, they were quietly shipped to Ponza. Here, they could live out their days in comfortable confinement, surrounded by breathtaking views that meant nothing without their freedom. This was banishment with a veneer of civility. The island's remoteness served a dual purpose, acting as both a prison and a strange form of protection. An exiled royal on Ponza was out of sight and out of mind for the powers in Rome, no longer a threat to the throne. Yet by keeping them within the empire's grasp, they were also shielded from foreign enemies who might use them as a pawn. This Roman precedent set a chilling pattern that would echo for over 1,000 years, cementing Ponza's grim reputation as the place you sent people when you needed them to disappear gracefully. The island itself became a silent keeper of secrets, its beautiful shores holding the echoes of the first royal whispers it was forced to swallow. Among the first to learn this bitter lesson was Julia the Elder, the only child of Rome's first emperor, Augustus. She was not merely a princess, she was the emperor's daughter, raised in the heart of imperial power, yet her story ended not in a palace, but in a lonely house on Ponza. Her crime was a personal life that defied her father's strict moral laws. While Augustus preached family values to the Roman people, his own daughter engaged in a series of affairs that became the talk of the city. But the real danger was political. Julia was seen as a rallying point for senators and nobles who opposed her father. Her behavior was not just a private scandal, it was a public challenge to his authority. So Augustus made a devastating choice. He accused his own daughter of treason and adultery, stripping her of her name and titles before sending her into exile. She spent years confined to that island, a living ghost whose very existence was an embarrassment to the man who ruled the world. Her fate was a blueprint. Just a generation later, another woman of immense power found herself on the same shores. Agrippina the Elder was the granddaughter of Augustus, a woman of fierce loyalty and undeniable ambition. She was the wife of the popular general Germanicus, and she traveled with his legions, a bold move that made her a beloved figure to the Roman army. This popularity made her a target. The new emperor Tiberius saw her and her sons as direct threats to his own family's hold on the throne. After her husband's mysterious death, Agrippina's defiance grew. She publicly accused Tiberius of murder, creating a political crisis he could not ignore. His solution was the same as his predecessors. Agrippina was arrested, accused of treason, and banished to Ponza. Her imprisonment was far harsher than Julia's. Isolated and broken, she was said to have been beaten so severely she lost an eye, and she ultimately chose to starve herself to death rather than endure more suffering. Her story sealed the island's dark purpose. The political logic behind these exiles was brutally simple. Killing a popular royal like Agrippina outright could spark a rebellion. It was messy and created martyrs, but removing them quietly to an island prison achieved the same goal without the bloodshed. Ponza was the perfect tool for this. It was a place where troublesome royals could be erased from public life, their influence neutralized while they remained technically alive and under Roman control. Their comfortable confinement was a lie, a pretty cage where they were left to decay in obscurity. The stories of Julia and Agrippina established a template that would last for centuries, proving that for a fallen royal, the most beautiful prison could also be the most cruel. And as the Roman Empire itself crumbled into history, a new power would rise to claim this island of exile, finding its own uses for this isolated rock. The fall of Rome did not end Ponza's grim purpose. As Europe fractured into warring kingdoms and powerful city-states, the island's isolation became more valuable than ever. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, a new cast of powerful figures found themselves trapped on its shores, their fates now dictated by popes and princes. The most shocking of these exiles was a man who had once held the highest office in Christendom himself, Pope Silverius. His story is a stark lesson in how quickly sacred power could be stripped away. Silverius became pope in 536, a time of immense turmoil as the Byzantine Empire fought to reclaim Italy. When the Byzantine general Belisarius arrived at the gates of Rome, the Empress Theodora saw an opportunity. She wanted Silverius to reinstate a bishop she favored, a man accused of heresy. Silverius, a man of principle, refused. His defiance sealed his fate. Theodora and Belisarius conspired against him, forcing him to resign under threat of violence. He was deposed, stripped of his papal vestments, dressed as a mere monk, and banished to the island of Ponza. There, the former leader of the Catholic Church was left to wither in captivity. Official records state he died of starvation within a year, a tragic end that many believed was deliberately orchestrated. The Church would later declare him a saint and a martyr, a victim of political treachery. His exile demonstrated that even the most divinely appointed authority was not safe from the cold logic of political convenience. Ponza was the perfect tool for this kind of quiet removal. A murdered pope would cause an uproar, but a pope who simply faded away on a distant island, that was a problem that could simply disappear. This practice was not limited to religious leaders. Throughout the Renaissance, rival nobles and claimants to various Italian thrones were routinely shipped to Ponza. Removing a popular duke or a princess with a strong bloodline could prevent a civil war. By isolating them on the island, ruling families could neutralize the threat without creating a martyr or provoking their powerful allies. It was a calculated, cruel, and effective strategy. The island's role had evolved from the Roman era, but its core purpose remained unchanged. For over 1,000 years, it served as a safety valve for the powerful, a place to send those whose very existence was a political problem. But this long history was only a prelude. The island's most dramatic chapter was yet to come, when the age of kings and queens would transform this rocky outcrop into the final stop for fallen monarchs. The political chessboard of Europe was being overturned, and kings were the most disposable pieces. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, a wave of revolutions and wars, most famously those led by Napoleon Bonaparte, swept crowns from heads all across the continent. This created an unprecedented problem, a surplus of royals with titles but no thrones, and for the Bourbon dynasty ruling the kingdom of the Two Sicilies from Naples, the ancient solution of Ponza became more relevant than ever. It was their private, sun-drenched prison for their own troublesome family members. The Bourbons did not use dank dungeons. They perfected a more insidious form of confinement, a gilded cage. Unwanted heirs and scheming relatives were sent to the island, where they lived in beautiful villas with stunning sea views. They had servants and relative comfort, but they were perpetually watched. Guards ensured they never set foot on a boat, their world forever bounded by the horizon. This was banishment with a velvet glove, a way to remove a political threat without the scandal of an execution. One such resident was a prince of the blood, a man whose very existence posed a danger to the crown. His name has been lost to many history books, but his fate is a perfect example. Perhaps he was a younger brother with ambitions or a cousin who allied with the wrong faction. His story was simple. He woke up one day in a luxurious villa on Ponza, surrounded by every comfort except the one thing that truly mattered, his freedom. He could walk along the cliffs, but he could not command an army. He could dine on fine food, but he could not influence policy. The beautiful surroundings were a constant, mocking reminder of the world he had lost. This practice was not unique to the Bourbons, but a symptom of the era. The Napoleonic Wars had toppled ancient dynasties and created a whole class of displaced nobility. Rulers needed secure out-of-the-way places to stash these living liabilities, and Ponza, with its long history and proximity to Naples, was the perfect holding cell. It was a quiet, elegant solution for a kingdom terrified of chaos, a way to preserve power by hiding its broken pieces on a paradise island. For nearly 2,000 years, the island of Ponza served as Europe's most elegant and effective secret. From the first Roman emperors to the last Bourbon kings, it was the ultimate solution for a very specific problem, the fallen royal. Its legacy is one of profound irony, where stunning natural beauty served as the backdrop for profound human despair. These prisoners did not stare at stone walls, they gazed out at an endless blue horizon, a constant, beautiful reminder of a world they could no longer touch or influence. The very geography that made it a paradise is what made it a perfect prison. This tiny speck of land witnessed the entire arc of Western power, from the height of the Roman Empire to the dawn of the modern era, all from the lonely vantage point of its exiled guests. It forces us to consider the true fragility of power, how quickly a crown can become a cage and a palace can be traded for a villa with a view you cannot escape. Islands like Ponza are more than just land. They are physical monuments to fallen dynasties, silent keepers of the stories that the history books often forget. We have walked through the lives of Julia, Agrippina, Pope Silverius, and the nameless Bourbon princes. Now I am curious, which of these exiled royals did you find most compelling? Whose story of loss and isolation resonated with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed unraveling this historical mystery, subscribe for more journeys into the forgotten corners of our past.